Why are strong property rights necessary for a functioning economy and state? What will happen if they are undermined?
Strong and protected private property rights have been the necessary ingredient to every successful society in recent memory. There has not been one example that I can think of any society that has reached a level of prosperity that is comparable to what many in the West today experience without that strong proprietary basis. Socialist states and communist states certainly have not come close. It is only in circumstances where individuals, families, communities are able to own property, to say this is mine, this is ours, and utilize that property to generate welfare for themselves, that widespread social prosperity can result. And we see the evidence for this in annual indices like the Fraser Institute's Economic Freedom of the World annual report, or even the Heritage Foundation's Economic Freedom Index. You can use both these indices, which are routinely criticized as being conservative propaganda. You don't have to take them at their word. You can take these indices and cross-check them with more, let's call it left-wing or left-focused indices like the United Nations Human Development Index. You can look at Freedom House's Freedom of the World Index. You can look at various rule of law indices and just compare them with these two economic freedom indices. And you will see almost without exception that the countries that have high rates of rule of law compliance, that have high rates of human development, that have low rates of infant mortality, that have high rates of nutrition, that have high rates of social mobility, all these other things usually correspond with states that rank very highly in economic freedom indices. The countries that protect private property rights, the countries that respect freedom of contract, the countries that allow people to engage in economic activity without being micromanaged by government central planners. It is usually those countries that produce good outcomes across the board, social and economic outcomes across the board for their people. So private property rights are absolutely crucial, but not only for prosperity, but also for democracy. And this is something that's not often thought about. One of my colleagues and a mentor of mine in jurisprudence, Professor Koos Malan, has written very ably on this topic, and that is to say that without that property basis that civil society and citizens rely upon, democracy simply is a word without substance. When your next meal is dependent upon government discretion, or if your very ability to work simply depends on keeping a minister happy, there is no way for you to exercise your constitutional function as a citizen in a democracy, to keep government accountable, to ensure that civil liberties are respected. One can just think that a convention center, if it hosts the official opposition's national conference, and the government using expropriation powers to expropriate the convention center because the people there have now undermined the government or the national interest, you can imagine that democracy cannot survive that. You need private property for the ability to tell government no. It's always been the case that when there is a large land owning citizenry in a state, that you will have a more responsive, more accountable government and a more responsive democracy, because you are not simply under the whim of political elites, but the power of the political elite is balanced out, granted, with a landed elite, but also then with the millions of citizens who, in their own small way, own not only landed property, but other items of personal property over which they have, for lack of a better word, sovereignty, and the ability then to tell government, no, this is mine, you can't have it. And here you can think about savings accounts, pension funds, any type of asset. When you have that ownership, you fundamentally have the ability to exclude other citizens, other people, but primarily government from interfering with it. And that is power. That is real power in your hands. Even if you're poor, the ability, the potential of having something over which you exercise sovereignty is crucial for the proper functioning of democracy. But of course, the primary motivator always for strong and secure private property rights will be the prosperity that it produces, and simply the morality of it. We are human beings are on this planet, and depending on your religion or your worldview, the fact is we need to be able to tame the natural environment around us to survive. We need to be able to take from the environment and say, this is mine. I am utilizing it for my welfare. That's simply the reality. Without that, humanity has no potential to survive. And I think the experience in the Eastern Bloc over the previous century, where that element of human nature was collectivized, was put in the hands of the state, that showed that it simply cannot work. It cannot work to socialize private ownership to that extent. It has worked to lesser extents in some European social democracies, and that's okay. But fundamentally, wherever it works, there's a very large degree of respect for the private nature of property ownership. And South Africa and other African states must take this seriously. There is a record of what has worked and what has not worked, and private property rights have worked, and where they have been respected, those societies have worked. And South Africa and other African states must try to mimic that, to be completely honest, to see what successful countries have done in the past, and to try that here. And we're seeing that to a large degree in some states, South Africa included. But I'm not sure that the notion of we're going to use private property as our catalyst for success has really taken hold, and I think that it's certainly time for that to start happening.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to follow us on Twitter at @the_IATP. Also, hit the like and subscribe button below, and check out our website at www.theiatp.org.